outside the closet, so to speak, of the 7 published Potter novels?
Because I was asked a very direct question at Carnegie Hall. And the question was, which I'd never been asked before, given that one of the biggest themes in the books is love, did Albus Dumbledore ever find love? And the girl who asked it, I have to say, prefaced it with this wonderful statement about how the Harry Potter books had helped her be more fully herself. She was a teenager. So I answered honestly. I suppose the other half of that answer is that Dumbledore's ill-fated infatuation was a key part of the plot of Book 7. So, often with writing the Harry Potter books, I felt like a salmon swimming upstream. There were so many theories and people wanted so much information in advance of the story that I, just to keep my sanity and keep my eye on my own plot, did not give masses away ahead of time because I needed to remain focused. So it's been very freeing, really, to finish and be able to be honest about the hinterland of the characters, whether it's directly relevant to the plot or not.
The next journalist I'd like to call upon will be Serge Olivier from Radio Canada.
Hi.
Running of the last installment of Harry Potter, just a few days from now, would you like to know why the Harry Potter saga has such a universal appeal and such success in different cultures and languages?
I've been asked that question a lot, and I've always found it very difficult to answer. I feel that there's an expectation that I should know what the magical formula was, but in truth, I wrote what I liked reading. I wrote a complex plot with plenty of mystery and surprises because that's what I like, and I wrote about characters that I was deeply interested in and engaged with. So I assume there are lots of readers out there like me. That's my answer.
I'd like to call upon Philip Marchand from the Toronto Star.
Hi.
At what stage in the imagining or writing of the Harry Potter books did you conceive the notion of Dumbledore's past and particularly his sexuality?
Really early on, I would say. All of the characters, I was writing for 7 years before the first book was published, and the characters came more and more into focus as I worked, and I can't honestly say there was a moment when I decided that was just something I knew or I came to know. So from very early on, probably before the first book was published.
I'd like to call upon Stacey Golden from TVO Kids. Stacey?
Hi.
I'm representing TVO Kids, which is the children's division in Ontario.
Right.
And we are wondering, the kids of Ontario are wondering what they could do to become successful as an author.
They should read a lot, which is not me trying to sell more books, but because it's the only way to enlarge your vocabulary and to decide what makes good writing and what makes bad writing. And then they'll go through a phase of imitating their favourite authors, which is fine because it's a good learning process. And then they need to resign themselves, I'm afraid, to wasting a lot of trees. But make sure their books are always printed on ancient forest-friendly paper.
I'd like to call upon Gloria Martin from City News over here. Thanks, Gloria.
Hi.
Hi there. Would you ever consider writing as a prequel to the Harry Potter series, focusing on Harry's parents?
Well, I have been asked that a couple of times, and I've always said, is that not a little bit Star Wars Episode 1? I probably won't, but I'm going to keep the probably in there because I've said all the way through, I think as early as book 2 or 3, I was asked, why not more than 7? And I've always said I'm not going to say never, because never in my life has always acted as a red rag to a bull, and I've immediately wanted to do whatever it is I've said no, never. So I'm going to say probably not.
I'd like to call upon Eli Glassman from CBC Radio National. Hi.
Hi.
Eli from CBC. So what would you say to some of the readers who were taken aback by the revelation about Dumbledore, that it's not the kind of information they expected to find or change the way they feel about the
Well, I suppose I would say that it certainly would never be news to me that a brave and brilliant man could love other men. So I know that I know that it was a positive thing that I said for at least one person, because one man came out at Carnegie Hall. I'm not kidding. There you are. That's really all I can say.
I'd like to call upon Pat Donnelly from the Montreal Gazette. If that's with us.
Hi there.
Wondered, Harry Potter has universal appeal, but will there ever come a day where you might have a female protagonist playing your brother's daughter? Is there any chance we have rivals for our Pantry Gables in Canada
Yeah.
and JK?
Very possibly. I see no reason why I wouldn't write a book with a female protagonist. It was simply that Harry arrived as Harry, and I never at any point considered changing him into Harriet. I did after I'd been writing a while. I did stop and think, it's a boy. But by then Hermione was so real to me, and I think that Hermione, for me, is a fantastic character. She's so bright, she's so essential to the plot, and so crucial in the way that they succeed ultimately in the 7 books, that I don't feel I've let the feminists down personally.
I'd like to call upon City News, either Kathleen O'Keefe or Liz West, if you're with us.
My name is James Nolte. I'm representing Kathleen.
I can't see you. Oh, there you are. Hi.
Sorry about that. Well, a couple of questions were already answered. The questions you sent were already answered. But I'm going to modify the question. I'm just wondering, with the outing that are coming out of Delaware, the political ramifications in other countries. I know in Toronto, they were one of the first cities that...
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. I got as far as political ramifications.
Of Dumbledore coming out.
Yeah.
Have you seen that on a worldwide scale? Are you seeing that on a worldwide scale? Other countries are not as tolerant to gay lifestyle?
I can't really answer that at the moment. It's something I said recently. I can't really answer that. It is what it is. He's my character, and as my character, I have the right to know what I know about him and say what I say about him. So, there you go.
Leanne Goodman from Canadian Press, if you're happy to be here.
I'm with the Canadian Press.
Hi.
I'm just wondering why you waited until now to reveal the information about Dumbledore.
I actually answered that first question.
Okay. Thanks very much. Brian Matthews from Maclean, is Brian with us?
Hi.
Hi.
I was just wondering about the famous epilogue, the last chapter. How much you did have to tweak
How much I had to tweak the epilogue how much I had to tweak it for changes that while right. Not so much actually. Most of the tweaking was done to reveal less information rather than more. As originally conceived, the epilogue pretty much crowbarred in every possible piece of information I could give you about their future lives, just because that was where I always knew I was heading. So I knew a hell of a lot of information, and when I first wrote that all down, that was the point I was aiming for. The big tweak, I suppose, was Lupin's son. Because until the 5th book in the series, Order of the Phoenix, I had intended Lupin to stay alive. So then it became a focus of the epilogue, one of the focuses, to make sure that we knew, even though he doesn't physically appear, that he was okay.
I'd like to call upon Mike Edgeworth from Global News.
Hi there.
And please speak up if you don't mind.
If not in book form, do you plan on continuing the franchise in any other medium? Last month, the biggest entertainment launch in history was for video games. And there are Harry Potter video games and other mediums. Do you plan on being a part of that and writing more sections of the overall story?
The only plan I have, and it's a possibility that I have, is possibly to write an encyclopedia, which would be the way of putting in all the information, the extra information I have on all these characters. And I've always said, and I stand by that if ever I do that, the proceeds would be for charity. I'm not planning on producing that to milk the phenomenon, as it were. So, yeah, I've said that all along, and I still may do that, but I've made no start on that. And it's certainly not something I plan on being my next project. I'd like to take a little time away from Harry's world before I go into that. I miss it. I really miss the world. But it's healthy. It's like the breakup of a marriage, not to see each other for a while, and then maybe you can be friends afterwards.
I'd like to call upon Mark Martin from OLA Magazine. Mark is with us.
Hi. Oh, I'm sorry.
In honor of the International Festival of Authors, I was curious, considering all the authors that we have working today for kids as well as adults, who would Harry's ultimate favorite author be? Ron's, Hermione's?
Well, Hermione, I think, would be into Margaret Atwood. You know what, Harry, let's be honest, Harry didn't do a lot of reading except when he had to. So I think to pick authors for either Harry or Ron, if I'm absolutely honest, would be stretching a point a little bit. And it would be me being Hermione-ish rather than truly reflective of their literary taste. I'm sorry.
Just to let you know, we only have a few minutes left, so we'll try and get to as many questions as we can. I'd like to call upon Rachel Harry from Google TV. Rachel, please.
Hi.
Hi there.
The last time you were here was before the first Harry Potter film had been shot.
Right.
And at the time you expressed some worry about it. What do you think has been the success, has been the key to the success of your book translated into film?
Well, I probably would say this. I'm very proud of the fact that we managed to keep the cast all British. I think that that's lent a certain tone to the films that's authentic and has kept them very grounded in the books. They're also made in Britain. Well, on a tangential note, really, it's less about the faithfulness of the translation, but that's been great for the British film industry. So, you know, I'm proud of that. Overall, it's been great. It's been really, really wonderful. And Dan and Rupert and Emma, particularly, who play the three main characters, have grown so much as actors. I think anyone watching the films would agree that. I'm very fond of all three of them. They feel like godchildren. So it's been a wonderful experience, actually.
And we have time for just one final question. So I'm going to ask Laurie Graham from CBC National.
Sorry. Lucky me. Hi.
Hi.
CBC. Not to sort of flog it, but back to the outing of Dumbledore. I understand that you said it's your character, and this is, you know, why you were asked about it, which is why you revealed it. I guess I'm just curious about why did you not just write about it in the book? Why not reveal it in the book when you started?
Because it's, I really think that's self-evident. The plot is what it is, and that he did have, as I say, this rather tragic infatuation, but that was a key part of the ending of the story. So there it is. Why would I put the key part of my ending of my story in book one? It's about the construction of the story. It's not. It is what it is.
Why not later then?
What do you mean?
Why not in book 5, 6, or 7? Why not reveal it in the book?
Because if you were an author, you would understand that when you write the ending, it comes at the end.
So the ending was at the news conference, I gather, for you, when you revealed it publicly.
Not at all. No, this wasn't a news conference. This was a question and answer with a fan. And why is that the ending of the book? It is in the book. It's very clear in the book that absolutely, I think a child will see a friendship, and I think a sensitive adult may well understand that it was an infatuation. I knew it was an infatuation. So